Why does it seem like these days you're spending more and more time lying in bed, doing nothing, and feeling drained? Maybe you've noticed that you get tired so easily that even small tasks feel like too much. And when you try to push yourself to do more, you just can't seem to find the energy. It's tempting to write it off as laziness, isn't it? But what if it's something more than that? In reality, there's often a fine line between laziness and burnout, and the two can be hard to tell apart. Burnout, though, is much more than just being lazy. It's a state of mental, physical, and emotional exhaustion that builds up over time from dealing with too much stress and not enough relief. Believe it or not, back in 2010, a survey found that about 75% of U.S. adults had experienced burnout symptoms, and more than 40% of those cases were pretty severe. Shocking, right? Given how widespread burnout has become, it's more important than ever to recognize what it looks like. So how can you know for sure whether you're just feeling lazy, or if you're truly burning out? Here are 6 signs that suggest what you're going through might be burnout rather than laziness. 1. You feel disconnected from everything. Ever feel like you're just going through life on autopilot? Like, you wake up, do what you have to do, but it's like you're not really there? Maybe you're even feeling detached from yourself, like you're watching your life unfold from the outside, without really engaging in it. That feeling of emotional numbness or emptiness can be a major sign of burnout, especially if you're experiencing what's known as depersonalization. It sounds like a complex word, but what it really means is that you've become so emotionally overwhelmed that you start feeling disconnected from your own self and the world around you. People who go through this often don't recognize it for what it is because it sneaks up on you. But if you're starting to feel like you're not yourself anymore, if nothing seems to hold your interest or connect with you emotionally, this could be burnout's way of telling you it's time to pay attention. People who are burned out report that they feel like they are living someone else's life. They don't feel present in the moment, and that disconnection can be deeply unsettling. It's more than just feeling off, it's feeling like you've lost touch with who you are. 2. You used to be motivated and driven. It's important to remember that laziness is generally a stable character trait. A lazy person avoids exerting effort because they simply don't want to do things that require it. But if you used to be someone who was driven, someone who was motivated and got things done, and now you can't seem to muster up that same energy, that's a pretty big red flag for burnout. If you look back and remember a time when you were hitting goals, staying on top of responsibilities, and thriving, but now you feel exhausted, unmotivated, and just plain worn out, that shift might be because burnout has taken over. Burnout doesn't happen all at once. It's like a slow drain on your battery until you have nothing left to give. And it can be incredibly frustrating because deep down, you might still want to do all those things, but you just can't find the strength to keep going. The exhaustion from burnout is different from laziness. It's not that you're unwilling to put in the effort, it's that you physically and emotionally can't, no matter how much you want to. 3. You've lost your passion for things you used to love. One of the clearest signs of burnout is losing interest in things you used to be passionate about. Think back to the activities, hobbies, or work that once excited you. Maybe you loved playing sports, excelling at school or work, or engaging in creative projects. But now, all of those things feel like a chore. You just don't care about them like you used to. When burnout sets in, it saps your passion. What used to fill you with energy and joy now feels empty, and that's a tough thing to come to terms with. It's not that you don't want to enjoy these things anymore, it's that burnout makes it hard to feel that sense of excitement. In fact, you might even start to resent the very things you once loved because they've become tied to the stress and exhaustion that led to your burnout in the first place. This is a key difference between laziness and burnout. A lazy person might not ever care about putting in the effort. But someone who's burned out used to care, they just can't summon the energy to do so anymore. And that shift can be incredibly disheartening. 4. Your mood has taken a turn for the worse. Have you noticed that you're more irritable lately? Maybe little things that wouldn't have bothered you before are suddenly setting you off. Or maybe you find yourself snapping at friends, family, or co-workers for no real reason. If your emotions are harder to control and you're feeling on edge more often than not, that could be a sign that burnout is creeping in. Moodiness and irritability are common symptoms of burnout, but they are often overlooked. People tend to think of burnout as just being tired or overworked, but it's also an emotional experience. When you're burned out, your patience wears thin, and even small frustrations can feel overwhelming. This is a sharp contrast to laziness. Someone who is lazy is usually more laid back. They are not too concerned with the world around them because they are not invested in it. But burnout leaves you feeling emotionally raw, constantly stressed, and quick to anger. It's as if your emotional threshold is much lower than it used to be, and that's because burnout has worn down your resilience. 5. You've started neglecting your self-care. One of the most alarming signs of burnout is when you start to let go of basic self-care routines. Maybe you've noticed that you're not eating as well as you used to, or you're having trouble sleeping. Maybe you've stopped putting in the effort to get dressed or groom yourself in the way you once did. It could even be that you're avoiding social situations because they just feel too draining. When burnout takes hold, even the simplest acts of self-care, like showering, eating regularly, or getting out of bed, can feel overwhelming. You might find yourself isolating from others, preferring to stay in bed or on the couch, because you just don't have the energy to face the world. The key difference between burnout and laziness here is that this wasn't always the case. You didn't used to avoid these things. But now, burnout has left you so drained that the energy it takes to take care of yourself just isn't there anymore. 6. These changes crept up on you. Perhaps the most important thing to understand about burnout is that it doesn't happen all at once. It's a gradual process, one that sneaks up on you over time. Maybe at first, you just started feeling a little more tired than usual. Then, you started losing interest in your favorite activities. Then, your mood began to shift. And before you knew it, you were in a full state of burnout. Burnout develops in stages, and studies show that there are 5 major phases: the honeymoon phase, the onset of stress, chronic stress, burnout, and habitual burnout. During the earlier stages, you might still feel some optimism, but as you progress, your motivation and performance start to slip. By the time you reach the later stages, burnout becomes a deeply ingrained part of your life. It feels like you're always exhausted, both mentally and physically, and it's harder and harder to pull yourself out of it. Recognizing burnout early is crucial because the sooner you address it, the easier it is to recover. Left unchecked, burnout can lead to even more serious issues like depression and anxiety. So if you see these signs in yourself or someone else, take them seriously and reach out for help. Taking action and seeking help. Burnout is not something you can just shake off. It's serious, and it needs to be addressed. If you or someone you know is showing signs of burnout, don't hesitate to reach out to a mental health professional. They can help you understand what's happening and work with you on strategies to manage and recover. And if you found this helpful, why not leave a comment below to share your thoughts or experiences? Your story might help someone else who's going through the same thing. Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on more content like this. Remember, taking that first step to address burnout could make all the difference in getting your life back on track.